If you'd rise for Mr. Wilder to lead us in prayer.
Y'all would bow with us. Our dear Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the country that we live in that gives us the right to gather like this and do our own affairs and within our community. We ask that you give us discernment tonight as we approach these issues and that we make the best decision we can possibly. We ask that you give everyone that came tonight a safe ride home from the meeting. All these things in Jesus' name we ask. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Van Meter will lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We all have all 5 members here tonight. If we would, need a motion for approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
Chairman, I make a motion.
Second. All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Need a motion for approval of this agenda tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Let me read this before we get started. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to clarify that the Planning Commission is a recommended body to the Columbia County Board of Commissioners. The decisions made on rezoning and variance requests tonight will be forwarded to the Commissioners for final action on February 7, 2023. If you wish to address the Board of Commissioners at their meeting, please see Mr. Douglas to obtain a request to speak for him. Now that the January 19th meeting will begin with information. First item on the agenda is, excuse me, is Home Prep LLC 6041, Ms. Montgomery.
Actually, we're going to do the year-end report for 2022.
Okay.
Okay. So our first presentation here is our 2022 year-end review and multifamily report. We just kind of summarize what went on in 2022. So here you can see the number of rezoning and variance requests as compared to previous years. Certainly not our highest, but still quite up there. We had 75 rezoning requests and 44 variance requests last year. The rezoning requests included 30 revisions to existing zonings, 7 new S1s, 3 new planned residential developments, and 3 new massage locations. And here you can see that broken down by type. So as normal, our change of conditions or revisions represented the largest portion of our rezoning requests, followed by our new planned or special districts and conditional use applications. We had a fairly good section of professional rezoning requests this year as well, and then the residential requests coming in at 9% there. That's pretty similar to other years. As we can see here, our change of conditions and revisions are pretty much always our most common type of request, followed by the planned or the special districts and the conditional uses. We did have fewer commercial requests here than other years, as you can see there, and quite a few more professional requests. And by district, again, the major revisions, minor revisions, and conditional uses were the most common requests. The S1, we had 9 requests, so that was the next most common, followed by that P1 district. We had quite a lot of those last year. Overall, about 80% of the applications were approved. We had 8% disapproved, 11% withdrawn, and we had 1 item that was postponed, so it showed up there in the roughly 1%. That didn't get a decision until January. It ended up being withdrawn as well. As far as residential approvals, we did approve all of the units submitted for zoning approval last year. That included single-family and townhouse units. We did not have any requests for new apartments in 2022. Number of units approved, we had 591 new single-family units approved and 46 new townhome units approved through the zoning process. As compared to other years, certainly not our highest, especially not on the single-family side. We had no apartments approved and just the 46 townhomes and the just under 600 single-family. In terms of variances, again, our most common variance requests every year are setbacks and buffers. That's very standard. And we can see here residential and commercial setbacks and our buffer code being those high points in the graph. Again, that's very common year to year. You can see the same kind of clusters for those setbacks and buffer variances. Those are pretty much always our two most common or three most common sections for variances. In terms of residential development, we had 8 conceptual plans approved, which added 576 future lots. We had 266 new residential lots approved for construction through the preliminary plat process, and then 630 new residential lots ready for sale, which means they have approved final plats. That is down from other years, and interestingly, you can see typically our preliminary and final plats kind of move in opposition to one another. So when we have a high on preliminary plat numbers, usually we have a low on final plat numbers. This year, they're both down a bit, and so are the concept plans. In terms of building permits, we had 761 new single-family home permits, 2 new duplex permits, 75 new townhouse permits, and permits for 6 new apartment buildings, which are the Evans apartments under construction. That is 300 new units. By type, that is primarily single family. You can see that makes up the majority of our building permits. That's very typical for the county. The apartments by number of units was the next largest share, although obviously not by number of permits. And then the townhouses took up the next largest. You can see that's pretty standard. Single families, always the largest category for building permits, with townhouses kind of being fairly consistent. We did have a larger number of apartment units with that one large apartment project getting underway this year. In terms of the total number of residential units permitted, we're pretty much on par with the last couple years, right around that 1,100 mark. You can see that's been where we've been at in 2020, 21, and last year in 22. We also keep busy with plenty of other applications, so we processed 246 sign permit applications, 71 zoning verification letters, 12 minor waivers, 5 provisional home occupations, and 19 temporary use authorizations as well. We also had the design recognitions for a couple projects in the county. So this was a renovation project from an old Rite Aid building to the new location for Escape Outdoors. And they did get a design recognition for the renovation there and bringing that into compliance with the corridor overlay. And then the Lexus dealership had a design recognition for both their building design and for their landscaping plan. And the final design recognition was for Newsom Electrical Construction for their green infrastructure, which is something we're starting to see a little more of in the county. In terms of the multifamily update, we do track kind of which projects are underway and complete. As far as apartments, the newly complete development is the second phase of the Lullwater apartment in Riverwood, so that is complete now. That brings the total number of apartments in the county to just over 2,800. The new building permits issued for apartments underway, as mentioned, were for the Evans mixed-use project, which is tentatively named the Premier. Construction's begun on those, and that will be 300 units over there. Lion Gate off Wrightsboro Road remains under construction, sort of. It has open building permits and some site work, but they're not making very quick progress with that one. Grand Oaks at River Island also remains under construction, pending some completion work and final certificates of occupancy. The undeveloped apartments in the county remain in the planned unit developments for the most part. Those are primarily in River Island, Riverwood, or in the Greenpoint PUD. That's similar for our undeveloped townhouses. Most of those are also in those planned unit developments. We did have several townhouse projects completed this year. We did move Avenel Place, Lakeview Commons, Emerson at Crawford Creek, and Connor Place all to the list of completed townhouse projects. That brings the total number of townhouses in the county to just over 3,000. There were 2 rezoning applications in 2022 that included townhomes as part of a larger PUD or PRD, and both of those were approved, as we noted earlier. And that concludes the year in review.
This is just for information that you, okay. Ms. Montgomery, continue on with item 1.
Yes, sir, this is a provisional home occupation application for Home Prep, which is a general contracting and cleaning business located at 6041 Old Union Road. Property is located on the northeast side of Old Union Road between Louisville Road and Harlem Grovetown Road, and is currently zoned residential agricultural, as are all the surrounding properties. This is the aerial of the site where you can see the existing house. And the site plan. The applicant's proposal is, again, the contracting and cleaning business. He has a truck and 2 trailers that he uses for this business, 1 trailer for junk removal and 1 to transport pressure washing equipment. A customary home occupation allows 1 commercial vehicle, which would include 1 truck and 1 trailer. It does not cover 2 trailers, hence the request before you today. Some of the tools for the business are also stored in the shed on the property, which you can see there on the site plan. They're already owned by the homeowner and used for personal projects as well as for the proposed business. The shed is very much less than 50% of the square footage of the house, and so it meets the requirements for an accessory building to be used for a home occupation. Overall, this is a pretty minor request. It should not have any negative impacts on the neighbors, and staff is recommending approval.
Any questions? A motion for approval or denial.
Chairman, make a motion for the approval of provisional home occupation on Old Union Road.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, Ms. Montgomery, excuse me, go to item 2.
Yes, sir. The second provisional home occupation request is for Nana's Little Red Schoolhouse, located at 2753 Scotts Ferry Road. This property is located on kind of the east side of Scotts Ferry Road and is also zoned RA residential agricultural, as are the surrounding properties. This is the aerial of the site, and the buildings we're looking at are located here and here. So very much in the middle of the property, and you can see there's quite a bit of tree cover to the south and east of these buildings that provides pretty substantial buffering from the neighboring properties. So what we're dealing with on this site, we have 2 family daycare business licenses submitted for this parcel. One is going to be approvable as a customary home occ. It is operating in the house for up to 6 kids by a resident on the property. So that one does not require approval from this board. However, the second business is operating in what is being called the Little Red Schoolhouse, which is a separate building from the house, and the use of this accessory building does require provisional home occupation approval. In other aspects, this does meet the home occupation code. It is operated by a resident of the property for no more than 6 kids. It has a state license, but they will have to update the address for that, since GIS did add a separate address for this accessory building. In terms of kind of the evaluation of this request, with a home occupation, traffic to the site is often one of the main concerns. The county code does have a trip limit of no more than 12 additional vehicle trips to the residents per day for a home occupation. Now combined, these 2 businesses would exceed that, but each business individually does not, and there is no limit on the number of businesses that can be on a property. That being said, we would certainly not encourage the proliferation of additional daycares on this property and accessory buildings or otherwise. At a certain point, it would become a commercial site and need to go through a different process. But this is a 20-acre property, and as we noted, the buildings are towards the middle of the site with pretty significant buffering. And the current request for just the 2 family daycares on this property should not cause any issues. And staff is therefore recommending approval.
Any questions? We have a motion to approve or deny the Red Schoolhouse.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the provisional occupation for Nana's, not Nana's, Little Red Schoolhouse located at 2753 Scotts Ferry Road.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hands. Mr. Douglas, Lewis temporary use in Louisville Road.
Yes, sir. This is 259 Louisville Road. It's a 1 and roughly 2/3 acre lot zoned RA. This shows the lot on the western side of Louisville Road, directly across from Exley Lane in the Anderson Farm subdivision. All of the property on the western side of Louisville Road is zoned RA, and the property across the street in Anderson Farms is all zoned R1. This is the site plan presented by the applicant, just illustrating that they are currently using the primary residence that is a double-wide trailer here at the end of the driveway, but they are in the process, once they get approval here and approval of their building permits, to construct a house built on foundation, where illustrated here on the site plan. Once the construction of the house is completed, they would then have to remove the trailer before they can use the house as their primary occupancy here on the site. And so it would be removed post-construction, so that only one primary residence would remain on the property. And staff is recommending approval of this temporary use.
We have a motion to accept or deny the Louisville Road.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve the temporary use authorization at 259 Road.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hands. Now we'll get into the public hearing part of the agenda. First item on the agenda is Ms. Montgomery.
Yes, sir. This is a request for a major PUD revision at 6114 Manus Court. This property is located on the south end of Manus Court and the north side of South Old Bel Air Road. This is relevant. It is a double frontage lot. South Old Bel Air Road is a collector road, which does have a larger setback typically than the local roads like Manus Court. The property is zone planned unit development as part of Brookwood Glen. The zoning was approved back in 1999. And for this portion of the development, this PUD is essentially following the county's R2 single-family residential development standards. This shows the aerial of the property, showing the existing house and patio on the back, and the existing house, and the view from South Old Bel Air. So I mentioned the zoning basically follows the county R2 standards, which for a collector road like South Old Bel Air Road would require a minimum setback of 75 feet from the center line with a 40-foot right-of-way, or sorry, 80-foot right-of-way, as shown there. That would be 35 feet from the right-of-way line on the property. However, the subdivision was platted with a 50-foot minimum building line from the right-of-way of South Old Bel Air Road. We have not found any documentation as to why the setback was increased in that manner, but we are essentially processing this as a request to reduce the platted setback. The reason for the request is the applicants are intending to expand and enclose that existing patio to construct a screen porch addition on the rear of the house. This would reduce the setback to approximately 40 feet from the right-of-way for the proposed screen porch. This does meet the standard setback, which is noted would be 35 feet from the right-of-way for a typical R2 property in the county. So there's no particular concerns with this reduction. The applicants have submitted their plans to the HOA and have received approval for the proposed construction, and staff is recommending approval.
Is there anyone here that would like to address the commission about this issue, for or against? Any questions? We have a motion to accept or deny.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve file RZ 230110, major PUD revision to reduce the front setback from South Old Bel Air Road for the property at 6114 Manus Court.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, the next item Ms. Montgomery.
Yes, sir, this is a request for a variance to section 90-135 signs at 3520 Washington Road to allow 2 freestanding signs on Washington Road and to increase the allowed sign height. This property is located on the south side of Washington Road across from Baston Road and is a corner lot with additional frontage on Applecross Drive. Property is currently zoned C2, general commercial, as are properties to either side, with the Applecross residential development zoned apartment residential to the south. Shows the aerial of the site. It is an existing car dealership. And here you can see the existing site, including the existing primary sign on the property. The intent of this request is to replace these existing signs on the property. Here you can see the other one as well. So there are 2 existing signs on the Washington Road frontage, both of which are intended to be replaced by new signs for the Acura dealership that is moved in here. Shows the plat of the property. And the 2 signs would be located in generally similar locations to the 2 existing signs. One would be for the new vehicles essentially, and one would be for the pre-owned vehicles. So you would have one towards the one end of the property and one at the other. Backwards. So the pre-owned sign would be about 24 feet tall. Now our sign height allowance typically for signage on this corridor would be less than that. Signs on this part of Washington Road, though, are generally over the county height allowance. And the principal sign for this site would be 30 feet tall as proposed. Now, in accordance with the sign face area, so we would typically allow signs on Washington Road for this size of business to be 15 feet tall and to have 116.25 square feet of sign face area. Now, the signs exceed the height allowance, as noted, one being 24 feet and one being 30 feet. But they do not exceed the sign face area. You have one sign at 35 square feet and one at 56 square feet. Means the combined total of the sign face area is less than what we would typically allow for a single sign on this property. Sorry?
Go ahead.
Other signs in this stretch of Washington Road are also over the county height limit. We have processed previous master sign plans for other automotive dealerships on this road and have allowed signs up to 40 feet tall with some of those applications. During analysis of those, staff did note that the median height of signs in this area was approximately 30 feet tall. And we have recommended keeping that kind of approximate average height in this area. The 2 signs proposed here are in line with that average height and are replacing the 2 existing signs on the property. Staff is therefore recommending approval with the condition that the sign face area of the 2 freestanding signs combined may not exceed the 116.25 square feet. Again, the current proposed designs meet that requirement very easily, so this basically just prevents expansion of the sign face area in the future.
Is there anyone here that would like to address the commission concerning the sign issue? We're about to see. Okay, nobody wants to talk about it, so do we have a motion to accept or deny VA 239105, 9195? Fine.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve with condition file VA 23-01-05, variance to section 90-135 to allow 2 freestanding signs with a maximum height of 24 feet and 30 feet at 3520 Washington Road.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. You? Okay, last item on the agenda, Mr. Butler.
Sir, it's a request for a variance, section 9-98, lists lot and structure requirements, 1901 William F. Parkway to reduce building setbacks along William F. Parkway. This location of the property immediately opposite the intersection of Shamlin Road and William F. Parkway on the north side there. Pretty much everything around it is zoned M2. You have some R2 to the north in Chastain Place, but not really anything close by. Here's an overview of the property, also the existing site, and the plat of the property, and the site itself. So this property's been in a couple times over the last couple of years. In 2018, there was a request to reduce the building setback to 90 feet, which you can see here. That was approved. The reason for that is when it was built, William F. Parkway was a collector, which had a 90-foot building setback. Since then, William F. Parkway became an arterial, which had a 125 from the center line, so it's one that reducing it down to the 90 when it was constructed made some sense. The request for this evening is to further reduce this building setback down to 77 feet from the center line. Go to the next slide, show an illustration of that. There's an extra foot there in case there's any kinds of overhangs, that sort of thing. Gives a little bit of room to work with. In terms of a setback, what you're looking for is to make sure there's no impact on traffic, on water utility, on broadband, because again, there are utilities out in front of this. Nothing from those departments were raised as a concern. The applicant has been working quite extensively with traffic engineering on the design of this fourth leg here to that light. So it's one that has had plenty of review in terms of moving this building forward and also how that light will function better in the future. There was previously when this came out, to you guys and also the public and the applicant, there was a postponement recommendation on there. That issue has been taken care of, so at this point, staff recommends approval of the request. That includes staff recommendation.
Is anyone here that would like to address the commission concerning this? Have a motion to accept or deny?
Chairman, I make a motion to approve file variance 23-01-06, variance to section 90-98 to reduce the front building setback at 1901 William Few Parkway.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. All opposed signify by raising your right hand. The issue fails 3-2. No legal matters. Excuse me. Thank you all for coming tonight, and we had a quick meeting. Do we have a motion to close the meeting?
Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Thank you all for coming.